What is something that you've learned from someone you've coached genuinely changed the way that you think?
What have I had to kind of give up? That's a habit that I think with every single player, you're going on a journey. To change anybody is actually zero.
Has there been any beliefs or habits that you've had to outgrow in your journey?
Luke, welcome back. This is your turn to put me in the hot seat. Thank you very much for the rest of the interview. And you've given me forewarning on my questions, and they're very good. So fire away.
Okay, it's my turn to now go at you. This is the roles have reversed after many years. Yeah. I guess the first question for me was, what is something that you've learned from someone you've coached, either tennis or not tennis, that has genuinely changed the way that you think or you live?
I thought a lot about this, and I think with every single player or every single client that I have, you're going on a journey. And in that journey, you learn a lot of things that you would not normally learn, because you get a deeper insight into a specific part of their life. And whilst you're trying to help them, much of what you do also can resonate into your own life. And I think you kind of evolve. And just like I'd say, you and Kelvin as a coach and player evolve together. A coach and a player, and coach and a client, you tend to evolve together. And the changes are so subtle you don't realize how much it is impacting your life. But I do believe it impacts a lot. But if I had to just pick one specific person, it's not anybody that I actually really know, although I have met him in person briefly and seen him in action live on 3 occasions. And this was a long time ago. I'm going back 20 years, maybe even longer, 30 years really, is Anthony Robbins. So Anthony Robbins was this self-help guru or whatever, and he's the first one who did the fire walk and stuff like that. But I've always, because of my own tennis and everything, I was always interested in the psychology behind success and the psychology of competing and the psychology of life. But when I came across him and I listened to his tape, and he interviewed a lot of interesting people, and I really enjoyed those tapes because he asked good questions, and then read his book, I would say what it started to do was take my wide vision of self-awareness and improving how I operate, and kind of distilled it into a pathway. And from that pathway, I started to branch out into other things. And it also encouraged me to, read even more books, and to, invest in myself and go on different courses and understand coaching better and keep improving as a coach. And I'd say that he was a catalyst forward to seeing that this is a lifelong thing that you just keep going at, and the breakthroughs that you have continue, because like every time you have a bit of a breakthrough and you think, oh, this is it, wow, I feel like I'm starting to crack this. There are so many different levels to each thing that you realize that you get less excited about these breakthroughs, because you understand that whatever level you understand, you know about something, there's always so much more there, and you just kind of go through it. There was a a great saying, before enlightenment, man carrying water; after enlightenment, man carrying water. And the way I've interpreted it is if you talk about, say, football, the objective is pretty simple. Put the ball in the net, score one more goal than the other team. But you have to go through all this learning and complexity to come out the other side, where scoring that goal or one more goal than the other team is actually possible, and is, you become a consummate footballer to be able to keep it simple. So it starts off very simple, that what you have to do, but in order to do it, you've got to go through a lot of learning, a lot of complexity to come out the other side to understand that actually it is pretty simple. But it's very simple with huge skill. I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
No, it does. It makes a lot of sense. But it's a very long journey, and it's a very everything that is so hard. The best people make it look easy, which is the trick.
Yes, and I think it's and I've learned this even from doing these podcasts and something like when you see these presenters on TV that look so unbelievably natural and speak without lots of ahs and ums and and all of that stuff, how much they've practiced and how unbelievably good they are to make it look like they're sitting in your living room and just chatting with you. And that's, there's so much behind make it look so simple.
Yeah, that's true. That was a good answer. I guess I have a couple more for you.
Okay.
So has there been any beliefs or habits that you've had to outgrow in your journey?
I thought this was just a brilliant question. It really is. There's one for sure. When I was younger, I really believed that I could change things in the world, and change people, change organizations, and then you get older and you start to realize that, number one, you cannot change people. People have to alter themselves. What you can do is facilitate and make people think about and ask them good questions, like you've just asked me a very good question, to make them think and see if that different perception moves them in a different direction. And some people will grab what you say and it will change how they operate and the way they do things, and some will not. And the power that you have, no matter how good a coach you are, how good a parent you are, how good anything you are, to change anybody is actually zero. You can only influence and facilitate, but ultimately the decision is always up to the individual and what they're going to do. And alongside that, as I got older, I think it's so easy as a person to look at someone else's life or what they're doing, even in any small things, or the way they're arranging chairs for a meeting or something like that, and go at it like you know better. And with maturity and realization that actually, why do I think I know better? And maybe I need to sit back and learn from this, and never just automatically assume that because you think you would do it differently, that would be right for other people. And I think, if you're observant in your life, you see how much different people try to tell other people in a way how to live, like they know better. And often some of the worst at this are people who are absolutely struggling, and it's almost that try to take control of their life so you don't have to look at the mess that's your life. So that was a big realization for me, I think, is give up and don't even attempt to try to change people or believe that you know what's better for their life. You can offer observations and they can decide whether to take them or not. But you're not walking in their shoes, and you will never have their perspective on life. They can explain it and you can understand it better, but you'll never fully see life like another human being. Everybody sees it very uniquely. And so sometimes it's very hard to understand how people see life.
And that's okay. To not understand it is okay.
Yeah. And also you don't have to partake in the way they choose to live. You choose to live your way and they choose to live their way. I mean, one thing it's very, very difficult to understand is people who want to do other people harm. But again, you learn to realize that these type of people exist in the world, and you just got to accept it, that it'll always be part of the world, and you can't change that. And then when it comes to organizations, when I was younger, I used to really feel like I could, influence, say, like the Lawn Tennis Association, and try to change the way certain things were being done and everything like that. And whilst you can have some influence, if you're not in a position of power in an organization and high power, then it's very, very difficult to have any real influence, if any at all. And the people in charge of any organization, any company, they have their views and the way they want to do things, and they're in that position, and therefore they will do it how they want to do it. And really and truthfully, wouldn't I do the same if I was in that position? And many people would not agree with what you do, and just like many people would not agree with whoever's running the organization. And you start to realize that you have to give up any kind of notion that, again, that you know best. You may know things that are better and would help, and you can put it out there, but if nobody's going to grab onto it, it's not going anywhere, and that's okay. So I'd say it's so strange that there's big power in giving up. Giving up trying to do things that are outside of your control, and be happy with asking the questions, be happy with giving a viewpoint, which I think is we're all entitled to do, but not feeling that somehow you're responsible in any way to make things happen. You can make things happen for yourself, but it's not your responsibility to make things happen for other people or for organizations or for anything. It's really interesting, and I can't remember where I was, but I was looking at some animals, and I thought, they don't give a shit what I think, what I do. They're going to go about their day regardless of anything that anybody here looking at them thinks, does, whatever. They will just do their thing. The world would probably be a better place if if people allowed, people just to do their thing, other than those who are going to harm. So those animals, they're happy as Larry until somebody starts shooting at them or, and trying to take them out. Then, of course, it's a different story. But, apart from sort of taking out the people who do harm, I think it's good just to, So the question was, what have I had to kind of give up? And that's a habit that I still have to work on it, but I think I've gotten a lot better at.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting. It's there's a power in giving up yourself, like you making the choice to give up, as long as it's not out of not wanting to do it, not wanting to put in the hard yards, it's freeing. It's a freeing sort of thing.
Yes.
So it's it's an interesting
focus on your own life and doing the best you can for yourself and the people around you, and that doesn't mean you don't give opinions or you don't offer help, and help in terms of asking. I think it's so important to ask questions that allow people the space to question themselves rather than telling. And I'd say the biggest change in my coaching over the years is being less and less and less telling. But again, with younger kids, it's all this kind of spectrum. You can't just not tell young kids anything. You do have to help people, and sometimes people just want the information, and then if you have the information, give it, because it will help them.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And I think it's, you give the information without the expectation that they're going to take on board everything you've said. You have to trust that they're going to listen, think about it themselves, and take what they need and leave what they don't leave. And don't be offended if they take none of what you've said. They've maybe thought and gone a different way.
Yeah. And be smart about it. There's a player that I coached for many years, and he fell in love very often, and spent a lot of money flying girls around the world. And each time he'd come to me and say, Dave, what do you think? And, do you think? And I would give him my opinion. And, after a few years, 2 or 3 years, I thought, why am I even bothering? And I just said, stop asking. And I'm not giving you an opinion. Because he was going to do whatever he wanted to do, regardless of what I said. I don't know why he asked an opinion that he was never, ever going to take. And then you get smart. It's like, well, I'm not going to waste the energy going through this whole discussion when it means absolutely zero. You're not going to listen at all. So I stopped. And I think that's another thing I've, kind of given up is not wasting energy, because there are people who will always ask you stuff with no intention of using any of the information that you give them. They're going to just go ahead and in their own merry way. And when you realize that, don't waste the energy, on them, just let them go, kind of thing, Oh yeah, great, well done, go. Yeah, no, that sounds good. And not try to talk them around in any shape or form, because you get to realize that for certain people, I don't know why, there's some kind of reassurance they want that they're not going to do anything other than what they're going to do anyway. I don't know. It's, again, I haven't delved too deeply into it, but it's kind of that kind of feeling.
Okay. And I guess moving on from that, the last question, I guess everyone is trying to grow. That I think most people are trying to grow. What practices or people have helped you sort of grow that you could pass on to others?
Yeah, I think one of the things I have learned that and actually there's been a study done, is if you read a book or you go to a workshop or you listen to somebody for an hour and a half or a day or 2 days, the chances of you implementing what you've learned is around about 10% you'll be able to implement. Whereas if you have a coach who goes through the learning with you and helps you implement, the figure goes up to 80% plus.
Wow.
So, and then it makes sense. The very best players in the world in sport all have coaches. Why? Like they don't know how to play tennis, or they don't know how to play basketball. I mean, Michael Jordan, had people on the side of the organization that helped him, and Jackson, the coach, he brought in different people for mindset and stuff like that. Phil Jackson, and he had his own physical training coach, Michael Jordan. So, he would bring in people to help him be better, as an example. And I know that there's a lot of footballers now and rugby players and stuff like that starting to employ people outside of their clubs to help them be better, to zone in and focus. And, just in everyday life, people who have a physical trainer are going to train better than people who don't have a physical trainer, because there's an accountability there that you don't have when you just, read a book or something and have to rely on your own willpower and your own thinking all the time to push forward. So I've always invested in myself, but I'd say it's in the last sort of 10 years in particular, I've always invested in other people to help me. And, some have been brilliant and some have been pretty average, but that's fine. But when you have an accountability to someone else that helps you along the way, you do things and get better much, much faster.
Oh.
And that's the thing that I now know, that for the rest of my life, I will invest in myself. I did an unbelievable course during COVID was run by University of California at Berkeley, the Business Executive Coaching Institute. And I mean, what they achieved online was unbelievable. It just was mind-blowing. And one of the things that was just incredible is we had to do a stage play, and just a one act. And we had a director of, stage plays and that to direct me and a partner that they selected from the course. And it was a part of a male and female, and they had a daughter that the husband wanted to make into an American football player, and the mother had big reservations about this. And this director took us through this, and we did a read through, and then he said, "Okay, now to me, you be the woman." He said to her, "You be the man." And we go through it, and the whole meaning of the scene started to shift, and it was quite different. Mm. And then he said, "Okay, you now do it still as a female, but do it very angry." And it shifted again. And then, do it like you want to leave your husband and you think he's an idiot. And, and we did it all these different ways. And then I went back to being the male, and he said, "Do it with a sense of humor now." And each time, then suddenly you realize, Shakespeare can be done a zillion different times, or any stage play can be done, because the way you focus your attention on it changes the meaning of the words and the way it's delivered. It was unbelievably fascinating. And this we all did online. But I mean, it was such a valuable lesson to learn that it's not just what you say, it's how you say it, it's tone of voice, it's, do you come into it feeling like, I'm in a good mood. This is, let's just make this very funny, or let's make it very sarcastic, and it changes. And if you ever have a chance to just experiment with that, read a paragraph of a book or something like that and do it from different ways, and how much it changes. So, yeah, I would say the thing that stands out is you really do need to invest in yourself to become more and more aware. And I was never aware that a play could be done so many different ways and interpreted so differently and come out so differently. And then you have to choose the one that you kind of like, that they feel. And we had to actually present online to not only our cohort, but to friends and family that were able to plug into this thing and watch these stage plays being done. Each one of them was like 10 minutes.
Wow.
And how everybody interpreted these things and everything. It was just phenomenal. I thought, wow, there are some incredibly bright people in the world to put something like this together and everything. It was just one little part of the course. So I learned a huge amount of stuff from that course in terms of how you can alter your self-awareness and how you can question things and do things differently. So I don't know if that answers your question entirely. But
yeah, I think invest in yourself and then just really listen to how people say things and how you say things, and it can really alter what comes across. Is a very it's a powerful tool.
Yeah, I have a fundamental belief that our whole journey here on this earth is just to become more and more self-aware.
Yes.
That is our actual ultimate journey, is that the more self-aware you become, almost the closer to yourself you get.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically it.
Wow. That's I've never really thought about it in that way, but that's an interesting one to take away for me and at least think about. But as I think from growing up from when I was 25 to I'm now 31, I would think I'm more self-aware, and I guess I'm just on that journey then. And hopefully I'll be able to say the same when I'm 35, when I'm 40, that I'm closer to myself.
Well, I mean, a philosophy that I have as a coach is I would hate to think in 5 years' time I've not improved. I mean, that to me is the worst nightmare. Is that, I want to always be able to look back and go, wow, yeah. I understand this better now. I can do this better now. And you just keep going down it, and then one day you're not here anymore to go down that road any longer.
One day the road stops.
One day the road stops. Yeah. I've got one last question for you, and coming out of left field, but and you can think about it. You don't have to give an answer now, but I would like you to come up with somebody that you believe I ought to interview next.
Okay. Can I come? Can I? Yeah, I can let you know.
Let me know.
Yeah.
But if somebody just came straight to your mind like that, I would also like that person. But you might change your mind. But if somebody really came to mind, boom, who would it be?
I mean, in my mind, I would like, because it's a person that connects both of us. I would like to get Macca, Ian McDonald, I'd be interested to hear his story. And I feel like he is. I saw him actually a couple of days ago pre-qualifying. I always love talking to Maka. I'd be interested to see him because I feel like he has a wealth of knowledge, a great coach, a great person, and I think he would be someone that would have some different views. And I would listen to that.
Right, that's a deal. I'll get
Maka.
it.
Yeah,
Maka, we're coming for you.
Yeah, sorry, Maka. Yeah,
brilliant. Thank you very much, Luke, and good luck with everything. And we'll speak soon.
Cheers. Thank you.